GM. GM. Daily levels. Today is the 29th of April. Apologies if the sound quality isn't good again. I'm trying to record the videos from my sofa, so I don't have my external mic connected. I can't really sit in my office with this big stupid fucking boot on for my ankle. But we'll power through. So, I think it's quite simple. Bitcoin appears to still be in more of a distributive bearish phase of price action. I covered this extensively on Trade of the Day, or not Trade of the Day, sorry, Weekly Outlook yesterday. When you're looking at price just being weak, thinking that people are too bearish is not enough to actually make it bounce, right? In 2022, anyone with a brain was bearish from here, right after that big collapse. Really, everyone or anyone was bearish there. And it went down more. And then the stock went down for a bit, but then it went down more. And then it went sideways, and then it went down more. And then it went sideways, and then it went down more. Just like in a bull market, where price will just go up, even though you think everyone's long, in a bear market, price will go down, even though it seems like everyone should be short or have sold. They haven't. You have to remember, there is so much of a build-up of positioning from all of these levels. There's people long from here, and I'm just taking it from the breakout, right? People long from there, people long from here, people long from here, people who long the top here, right? But they got bailed out by the market 30 days later, long from here, long from there. Anyone who bought this breakout just blindly bought that breakout, long, everyone's had a free ride. Basically a free ride. So, at best, chop people up till their positioning goes flat again, or go down and target some of those areas. Now again, 60k is support until it's not. So you don't want to get short and more bearish the lower it gets towards 60. I actually do think 60 breaks. That's just a gut feeling. It's not based on anything other than, well, obviously, this first thing, right? Price action. I've got the volume profile on here for the aggregate chart from this candle. So from the breakout, and the reason I chose this one is from the breakout that took us to all-time high, which to me, if I take this off, this was when the range got set. And if I drop to a 12-hour, I'll view it here. This is when the range got set. We touched the all-time high, sold off, wicked down below 60, rallied up, set a high, consolidated, retest multiple times, and here we are. So that's our range. That's why I'm choosing to draw the volume profile from there. Now we look at it, and to me it's really simple. Below 64, we're bearish on the low time frame. Right? 64k is the key level. Bitcoin came down last week and tried to hold it on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Was unable to. Broke it over the weekend. Retested it. Failed. And now we're going lower. So you can see this. Bitcoin is holding right down at the value area low. It's the last place where it can bounce from. But I think it's really simple. If you want to get bullish again, and you want to, be talking about bottoms or stronger moves up, 64k absolutely has to flip. And ideally, if we're looking at these 12-hour bands, which tried to go green there, it was a trap. If Bitcoin is able to hold, push back up above 64, and the 12-hour bands can go green again, that's where I could see 67 and maybe even 70. And of course, if the bottom's in, we can go higher. But price is not bullish at the moment. And it's not behaving the way it has been. And then I take the full range. The full range has the point of control, so the highest volume node, at 66.5. And that is exactly where the rally went to, off the lows, and rejected. So again, from the high time frame perspective, if Bitcoin's going to go to 80k, it cannot do that until this flips again to support. Right? So from a higher time frame perspective, we're bearish below 66.5. Let's call it 67. From a lower time frame perspective, just from the nuke down, that's where I drew this, right? From the crash over the weekend with the fears of war, it's 64, almost exactly. 64 is our level. If you're looking at this volume distribution, we are now also in the lower area, right? So the value area is where price should not deviate out of. Price should remain within this value area, the darker shaded part. Reason being is because when you have a distribution, right, a normal distribution, 68% of it, let's call it 70%, should be within there, and anything outside of that should be an outlier, and price should not hold there. It should reject. If this distribution is going to remain as a bullish consolidation, price should not want to go down here, but price is down here and it's accepting down here. The low of that, the value area low, is also exactly at the point of control of this lower end. So to me, it's extremely simple. Bitcoin below 64K is bearish. And then if you're looking at it, I then take that and say, okay, well, how are people going to be positioned? Not what is their sentiment, right? Not, oh, everyone's too bearish, I'm going to go long, or squeeze the bears, or fucking nuke it to zero. Not just people's words, their positioning. And you can see this on the chart. It's extremely simple. Lots of people, I would say the majority of people that are long, will have an invalidation below 60, right? Because we held it once, two, three, four times. It's holding up. Price is remaining in this area. And because we've had this bull market, people want to be bullish, and they're thinking that it's just a shakeout. It's just a retest. Bitcoin's going to go higher eventually. 60K is rock solid, blah, 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 all this stuff. And so even just a wick down below to 59, 58 is going to take out any stops that are there. So anyone who's bet with leverage on this being the bottom. Again, I'm a bull, fucking big bull. And if the market tells me, i.e. reclaim 64, reclaim 67, I'll be fully back bullish. Fuck the bears, squeeze the bears can die, all that shit. But when price is not doing that and price is telling you that it's going lower, again, you don't have to short. Shorting from 62 down to 60, yeah, if a day trade or a scalp, but that's not the optimal play either. The point I'm making is everyone wants to be long or is long. It's a bull market. We've gone up significantly for 6 months. People are over allocated. They're fully in meme coins. They're long alts, whatever. I covered this on Weekly Outlook. You cannot deny that the vast majority, if not everybody, is somewhat long crypto. So the max pain here is not going up, right? Because you're trying to then say that the people who are bearish in this little 6-day phase are cumulatively short by more than the entire market is long. It is way more painful for everyone's leverage longs if Bitcoin goes to 57, 58. Rather than, oh, well, everyone's so bearish. Because everyone was bullish over here, right? Everyone was bullish again over here because Bitcoin had bounced off the lows. It rallied up off of war fears. So you can't tell me that the market has flipped so negative and so short in this phase, or even in this phase, right? If you take this Saturday move as being the shifter, so 13th of April to 29th of April, 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, do you think enough short positioning has built up and enough people have sold and panicked and exited the market to undo 6 months of long build-up? We have a lot of longs built up. We have leverage built up. Spot buyers are going to be fine, as they always are. The risk, as always, is on the leverage players. And I just don't see a reason to be bullish. Low time frame, right, and the lower time frames, when structures are like this. You can simply just wait for a reclaim. We also did something very typical of a continuation, which is you break down, the bands go red, you have a counter trend rally, right? So it's a downtrend. You have a counter trend bounce into the bands, traps people above them. They don't flip green. They hold as resistance and again. And that leads to new lows. It can also lead to a consolidation. But actually, if this had have flipped green and then back to red, I would be more inclined for that to happen. Meaning, when it goes like that from red to green and it retests, like the example is over here, when it bounces up above and traps people and then falls back and they don't go green, what happens? It goes lower. Now it just swept the lows. It was almost the bottom, but it went lower. You take people out on the upside, it goes and targets the downside. This is a range. This is a chop phase. So just like on the downside, it swept out these lows, okay? Took out those lows and had a nice rally up, and it rallied right up to these highs and took out the breakdown. So anyone shorted with their stops there got taken out. Anyone who was long with their stops here got taken out. And when you target those sides, we know where the liquidity is resting now. It's all the people who, again, have bet on the bottom and their stops are there. When price is in these consolidating ranging phases, it tends to move towards areas of known liquidity. Now, again, if the actual bottom's in, then great. We will chop around. We will not break 60. It will eventually climb back up above the bands, above 64, above 67, and then boom. Then you have a clear invalidation. Because if it gets back above 67, it should not lose 64, and you're able to trade directionally in that way. And this is about trading, and this is lower time frame stuff. I've said it a million times. If you're holding spot and you want to keep holding, good. This is not a position to sell now and buy back lower, because again, 60k may well be the rock solid support. We will only know when it retests again, or when it breaks above 64 and 67. And it always looks really bad right before the bottom. So again, this is not a place to adopt a super bearish bias. I do think, based on alts, that they need to go lower, because we need to make them, they need to come back down to at least retesting their nuke lows. I would be confident that, especially the shit coins, you know, just pick anything. I think I looked at Cardano yesterday, right? I think these coins either need to go lower or double bottom or retest something, right? Most of them will sweep. Many of them will sweep. And if it can then hold, and many of them will just retest. I don't think that the whole market's going to bottom out here. But what it can happen is we could hold in this area, rally up, touch off again, and then retrace back down. It does not have to come down into your level right away, and I don't think it will. But if you're looking at the exact same thing that happened back in June, you had your first big nuke, and what did Cardano do? It made a high, and then a low, and then a higher high and a higher low. And it looked really good, and it was bullish, and it was moving up. And what happened? Bleed all the way back down, right? But it had a big push first. It literally pumped up from 22 cents up to, it almost doubled. And then it drifted all the way back down, retest the lows, then took out that low, then double bottomed, and then eventually away it goes. I think there's no reason to suspect that Cardano, after breaking its trend, like entirely broken, it has fully broken its trend. Right? You can see this. It was in an uptrend, quite clear to see. It is now not in an uptrend, quite clear to see. And when it breaks with such strength, just like over here, time is needed. So maybe Cardano does the same thing. It rallies up once more, then comes back down and retests. Maybe it just goes straight down to new lows and has to bottom out there before coming up. Maybe it does something entirely different. And of course, there is a possibility that we go up like this, and then it just grinds up, and it's sort of the wall of worry and disbelief, and it just goes all the way. That's possible, and it's very important to consider that. But I do think that is the least likely of the three. So I'm much more aligned towards what I've said for weeks now. More chop, more grinding, more sideways. But just like Cardano back in July, doesn't mean it goes down first. It can go up. We had that attempt to rally already. Pepe was one of the leaders in that move. It's still trying to hold on here to its daily bands reclaim. Losing that level, right? Losing that bands reclaim level, to me would be quite clear then that it's going to retest back to the lows. But Pepe is one of those that probably makes a higher low. I would bet that it doesn't make a new low. I would bet that it's in the process of trying to form a bottom here. And it probably gets messy and choppy. But that ends up being a bottom. Not everything needs to make new lows. But I also think that probably more downside is to come first. unless something major changes. You can already see it. Like Solana has been a leading alt all the way. It is now significantly weaker than the majority of coins. And again, same thing. It's a downtrend, impulse, corrects into the bands hold, down we go again. Now again, you do not want to short here outside of, day trades, etc., because there's clearly support there. It's been down for 5 or 6 days. People are definitely getting bearish. Lower time frame, it could go like that, or it could just chop. It could push up to there, chop back down, take out lows, take out highs, chop, 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 and then eventually drift lower, or hold and confirm a base there. Like I've said a lot of times, this is the trickiest phase. Don't try to avoid any big grand statements. Your bias is gonna wreck you here. If you think it has to break down, or it has to, that's it, we've bottomed, up we go, or squeeze the bears, wreck the bulls. Most likely neither happens. Low time frame, it probably bounces soon and squeezes. But you're looking at stuff like this. Just look at where on the chart. Just where on the chart is not safe, right? If you're a bear shorting, that is not safe. Yesterday's highs on Solana, anyone who is shorted there, they're not going to get this move. Very, very, very unlikely. Because that would just be a free ride. Now, is this high safe enough there with stops? Probably. Are these lows safe for anyone who got long? No. So it's a case of which gets hit first, this or this. And then when you zoom out, you're like, well, wait a minute. Why are we even, is that something worth trading? Right? Because the proper low is there. The real resistance that needs to flip is here, right? Solana needs to flip that level, which, by the way, that's the pre-war fears break. Solana hasn't even got close to it. Guys, this was the leading altcoin of the whole October to March bull run. When the leaders are lagging and they're weak and super weak, take note. That's a change. Solana had been the strongest all the way. It's now not the strongest. The market's telling you something new is happening. I think that, like I said on Weekly Outlook, I think this is probably a sign of a rotation back towards Ethereum on relative basis. But it's quite clear. The market's just weak. There's no bid. There's no real interest. So allow it to get like that. Allow it to get bad. Probably some short squeeze trades that can be found. It maybe needs to get worse first before it gets better. And if the bottom is in, you don't need to be a hero and guess it. If you want to buy spot, buy spot. Good. Can't be liquidated. It's already down. Is it bad to buy Solana now? I mean, it's 35% down. If you want to buy some spot and you wanted to buy it at 200, well, this is much better than 200. Will it go to 100? Maybe. But you don't have to penny pinch if you're buying some spot for the next leg of the bull. But you do have to be prepared to hold through some choppy phase. And then for trades, if you're trading this and you want to get long, you're trying to time it, you simply cannot do that with this setup. Bands red, in a downtrend, broken structure, no signs of a bottom. Again, for a trade, you have to see something that signifies strength. And there isn't anything yet. That will probably come, but it's not there yet. It's also Monday, start of the week. So when the week starts off bearish, like we've seen here, I'd be surprised if there wasn't some kind of green on this weekly candle. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4 red weeks on Solana. This one's opening up down. Bitcoin, same thing. Opening up red. Has already taken out last week's low. I would be surprised if there isn't some sort of green on this weekly candle at some point. But it's not an area or a place to be guessing that. Because I've seen this before. People are like, oh, look, it's holding 60. Look at this. It looks so... sometimes it's just actually weak. Sometimes an 8-week consolidation, and this is the point. When people remove your bias. I love Bitcoin. Bitcoin bull. Bitcoin maxi. Fucking want Bitcoin to go to 150k. But when we have a 7-week consolidation, right? So consolidation can either be accumulation or distribution. We don't know which. We've had a 7-week consolidation, and Bitcoin is below the key volume levels, like I showed. It's below 67 and it's below 64. So we've had 7 weeks consolidation. The vast majority of volume distributed is higher, so meaning those people are underwater, whoever is long. And if you're looking at, will this break to the downside, that's exactly what needs to happen. It needs to lose those key levels, distribute the volume above them. That is how distribution works. So while we don't want it to be distribution, I'd love Bitcoin to just moon, you can't ignore the fact that it needs to reclaim some key levels, and if it does, that's very bullish.